If you've ever sat beside a loved one with dementia, searching for a way to connect, to share even one calm, meaningful moment, you know how hard that can be. Words don't always work. TV can overwhelm. Silence can feel lonely. That's the moment when a tool like Zinnia TV can change everything. Welcome to Seniors Home Zone, where we reflect on life's transitions and talk about what matters most. I'm Rebecca Finegan, and today we're talking about connection, the kind that goes beyond words. Zinnia TV is creating something truly special, visual stories designed for people living with dementia. Their programs bring comfort, spark, memory, and make connection possible again. Today, we're talking about how their approach is reshaping how families and caregivers connect, one peaceful video at a time. Joining me is Allyson Schrier, co-founder and president of Zinnia TV. She's a passionate advocate for people living with dementia and the caregivers who support them. Through her work, she's helping families rediscover moments of joy and connection in the midst of daily challenges. Allyson, welcome to Seniors Home Zone. I'm so glad you're here. To start, can you share what inspired you to create Zinnia TV and what gap you saw that needed to be filled for families and caregivers?
First and foremost, I think that the experience that most led to the creation of Zinnia was my life. I was a family caregiver. So my husband, Evan, was diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia when he was just 47. Our kids were 12 and 15. Shortly after he was diagnosed, my stepdad was diagnosed with vascular dementia. And my dad's wife almost certainly had Alzheimer's disease. She was never diagnosed. And so I was suddenly thrust into this world of trying to understand these diseases that I knew absolutely nothing about. As time progressed and my husband moved into long-term care, I found that it grew increasingly difficult for us to have conversations. They became very transactional. So if I had stopped by the grocery store on my way to visit him and I got gas in the car, then those are the things I would talk about. Like, you should see the price of peaches, right? It's like whatever just most recently happened to me. And so we stopped having um, conversations that really related to us or to our lives. And especially as he became completely nonverbal, what do I talk about as the person who's still visiting him? But right. So that's again where I would just talk about the things that happened in my day, which is kind of meaningless to him. So one of the things that I discovered is the importance of a visual aid to drive a conversation. And this makes a lot of sense to me because I had, by this time, started studying with Teepa Snow. I did a bunch of certifications because I wanted to learn all I could about how to be better at what I was doing. And I was deeply curious about it. And she talks about this concept of visual, verbal, touch. If we're going to help somebody who is living with dementia, like by brushing their hair, for instance, that the first thing I will do is I will offer the message visually, which means that I hold up the hairbrush or I brush my own hair. So there's the visual. This is the thing we're about to do. The verbal is let's brush hair. And then the touch is when I actually reach over and brush your hair, or we use a hand under hand technique and we brush the hair together. So I thought, okay, I have learned that the visual, if our brain is a computer that takes in data through our senses, the sense that remains the most prevalent for people living with dementia is visual. So visual data is the thing that we really want to speak to. So it made sense to me then that if I'm visiting him and I bring something that is of value to him, maybe it is a picture of him playing hockey, or maybe it's an actual hockey glove, one of his gloves, and he can hold it and we can then talk about it, or a hockey puck, right? Or if somebody was into gardening, I might bring a gardening magazine or seed catalogs or packets of seeds. So that is the thing that we talk about. And so therefore, we are having more meaningful conversations. So I would also just bring my phone and my iPad because I could bring up images, pictures, family photos, or I could go to websites and look things up and we could look at them together. So again, I'm first trying to connect with him visually. So I started using my phone to create little videos, which Apple has something called their Memories product. It's baked in and it allows you to select images that will then be rolled into a video that they create. It's set to beautiful music. And so we could watch those videos together and they were slow paced. There was no talking and we were able to pause and talk. I was able to talk. I would kind of narrate the story of what was happening in these little videos. And I thought, man, I wish I had more of these little videos because I can show him little videos that are made up of photos of my dog or photos of our kids. But I wanted to show him videos made up of photos of skiing, but my skiing pictures were really not very good. Or kayaking or hiking in the Pacific Northwest, all of the things that he loved. So I, with a background in technology, reached out to friends I had who worked at Apple. And I said, hey, I'm using this thing on my phone and I just need more content. Like, I need to figure out how do I get ski pictures on my phone in my photo album so that I can pick those. And that was my idea. And then I thought, if I can make enough of these little videos, I can share them with my friends. So how do I do that also, friends at Apple? And the guy I wound up talking to was a fellow by the name of Frank Lee. And I told him what I was stuck on. How do I get more content? And he said, "Oh my gosh." He said, "First of all, do you understand why these people put you in touch with me?" And I said, "Not really. You work at Apple." And he said, "Yeah, but I was the designer of that product that you're using. Like, I get it. I get what you're trying to accomplish here." And he said, "We never thought about that. We never thought about the fact that we were creating something that could be helpful for people who need a slower, gentler viewing experience." He had recently left Apple. He lived in Vancouver, BC. I live in Seattle. And he said, we could totally do something here. Like, we could build something that caregivers can use. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm so on it. So it's like a 3-hour drive. A couple of days later, I drove up and we had a conversation. He brought in a person who he is connected with, who is a visual artist and a filmmaker. And after that meeting together, we added a business guy and we decided that we'd give it a go and try to create these videos with the intention that they could help caregivers connect and drive conversation. So that's the first part of the story. The other part of the story is that I would show up at the care community and find my husband parked in front of a television in the common room, and literally parked because he was in a wheelchair and could not get up by himself. And sometimes he would be like this with his eyes pinched shut and his shoulders hunched up around his ears, grimacing. Sometimes he would be wide-eyed and kind of looking around the room as if like, where is everyone? Sometimes he would be pounding on his chest and screaming swear words. So all of these things indicated to me that this viewing experience wasn't really working for him. And I noticed that other people would be looking around the room or they'd be asleep most of the time. Nobody was really paying attention to what was on the TV. And yet, the TV was on all the time. So I did research and I came upon a paper that was called Television Viewing and People with Dementia Living in Long-Term Care. Like, that was really the name of the paper. And I thought,
Wow.
that's what I'm talking about. Like, what's going on here? Why is nobody really watching the TV? And why does it get people upset or make them go to sleep? So that paper was done by a Dr. Kate DiMedeiros, and she and her students went to long-term care communities where they showed people a bunch of different videos. And it might be things that they would have been familiar with. I Love Lucy, um, Bob Ross doing painting, right? Jerry Springer, because they wanted to see, do we get emotional response from people based on what we're showing? And what they found is that by and large, people were just not really into it. They would be kind of looking around, like the same kind of experience that I saw. The only thing that tended to have that was more attention grabbing was a show called Venice. And Venice was simply slow moving images set to music. And I thought, well, that's what I'm doing. I mean, that's what I'm doing with these little videos. So, um, anyway, so that is how Zinnia came to be, is I thought maybe you could build something that's better for people to watch than regular TV. And I can say a lot more about that, which I would love to do, but we can we can just pause for a second and just I have answered the question of like how did Zinnia come to be? And that is the story.
That it's a powerful story. Thank you so much. It's great to hear your compassion for it.
Yeah.
I find myself, I was watching some of your stories, the waterfalls, the mountains, the drinking water, and I find it fascinating. How do you come up with these stories?
Sure. Well, it started off um for 2 years we created content before we had a way to deliver the content. So, in other words, we just had it up on a website. We would just put videos up there. We were extremely fortunate. I am going to answer your question. We were extremely fortunate very early on to be able to have participate in a 2-year research project at the University of British Columbia in conjunction with Vancouver General Hospital. And there we were just testing content, testing content. Are we building things that work? And one of the things that we knew out of the gate is that while we want these videos to be able to spark conversation, it's also really good to have content that is of value, something that means something to you. And so, therefore, out of the gate, we tried to create videos that we thought would be meaningful for the people who would be watching them. Meaning, like when I read a book, for instance, one of the things I'm looking for is the me to story connection. And so, what is the me to video connection? I started going to my husband was in long-term care. I went to his community and all a whole bunch of communities. He was in a small community at that time. So I went to some of these like high-rise communities that have multiple floors of memory care. And I asked if and I explained that I was gathering data and they allowed me in. And next to each person's door, they have these little shadow boxes where they have
Mm.
all of the things like this is Bill's room, right? And there's a picture of baseball and there's a picture of Bill hunting and so I just took a pad and I wrote down what are the things that people are interested in this community. And I started seeing that there were a lot of points of intersection, right? Like who doesn't love babies? And there seems to be a lot of people who were in the military, and there seemed to be a lot of people who are into gardening or who were into fly fishing. And so we were able to pretty rapidly build up a category, collection of say 30 videos or so that seemed to be that there would be a wide audience of people who would be somewhat to very interested in that topic. So that was how we started. We also asked people we solicited for information. What would your loved one like to watch? What would they like to know about? What would capture their interest? And then over time, we just started adding content based on people that we met and the things that they loved. We also recognized so that by the way, I am describing what we call our interests channel, which is just a hodgepodge of all different things. There's knitting, there's baking, there are cars, right? There's the Navy, there's just all kinds of stuff. We also recognize like why do people use TV? And one of the reasons why is to soothe and relax. And so therefore we created a nature channel. And the nature channel was one of the first ones that we created. And it's just beautiful videos of natural scenery, whether it's waterfalls or a Pacific Northwest walk or flowers or trees, right? Life of the butterfly. We also recognize that lots of people are into animals. Lots of cat and dog lovers, lots of horse lovers, lots of people who might have grown up on a farm. And so we decided that we would have a animals channel. We also found that there were a lot of people who had traveled throughout their lives. So we created a travel channel. So we just started, that's kind of the way that it has grown. It's been very, very organic, the way that we have determined what the content is that we would add to Zinnia. And then I can go on more about what we're doing these days and how we have continued to innovate.
So, and I've only seen your channel from the front where you have all the little samplers, you have people getting ready. You have that rooster in the morning, and once you have your subscription, are there a lot of things within each category?
Yes. So we have, um, I boy, how many channels do we have now? We probably have about 20 channels, and each channel is populated with many videos. So we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos. One of the things that you were just talking about is, um, these activity of daily living videos. So what we were thinking about out of the gate, the story, what it was is, how do I communicate more effectively with a person with dementia? Ooh, by having something that's visually engaging for both of us. And if we have the content accessible enough, then it can be both entertaining and engaging for a person who's living with dementia. And so right there, it's good for the caregiver because, wow, our thesis, honestly, is if he's happy, I'm happy. So if he's watching things and he's enjoying it, or she, yay. But we also really thought about, how is this helpful for the caregiver? And so one is the way that I just described. As a caregiver myself, I was always trying to figure out, how do I make his life a little bit better? Because it was awful, right? It was awful that he was living this existence. And I think all caregivers have this guilt that goes along with their caregiving role, which is, I feel horrible that it's him and not me. Like, I wouldn't want it to be either of us, right? But I love him so much and I hate this. I hate this for him. So I am always going to look for ways that I can add at least little morsels of joy to his day. And so that was one of the things that drove Zinnia TV, is, how do we have something that will bring a little bit of joy, that will bring a little bit of ease to the person I'm caring for? But what I also recognize is that it is hard work to be a caregiver. So how do we also have content that helps caregivers? So the activity of daily living videos are videos that model the activity that we are about to do. So I talked earlier about the idea of visual verbal touch that I learned from Teepa Snow. I show you the hairbrush. Now you know that we're about to brush hair. I say, let's brush hair, and then I brush your hair. So we created that as videos. So there is the let's get dressed video, where it's just a video that shows scene after scene of people getting dressed, picking out their clothes, putting on their clothes. Sometimes someone is helping them. Sometimes they're doing it themselves. They're smiling. There's nice music. We're getting across the message that getting dressed is a thing that's going to happen, and it's not so bad. So we have videos for getting dressed, for eating, for drinking water, for using the toilet, for brushing teeth, for taking medications. The intention being that before we do the thing, let's just watch this video together. And now you know what's coming. You're ready for it. And what our research showed is that if these videos are used on a regular basis, they build routine, and routine is so important for people who are living with dementia. And on a regular basis, if they are watched, it takes away, in general, anxiety around that activity. So you can imagine, like, a lot of people have issues with bathing, for instance, for many, many reasons. And so if we watch the video every day of people bathing, and every day they're smiling, and boy, that shower looks so nice, that it starts to take away some of the rough edges around getting somebody to agree to step into the shower, for instance.
Yeah, and something you mentioned earlier too is a couple, they were watching it before either one of them had any issues, which is really important because that's something
Yes.
that they're gonna remember.
So in this case, the wife has dementia, but she's very early in the diagnosis. She's still able to dress herself. She doesn't need help with her activities of daily life. Um, she wouldn't necessarily be able to balance the checkbook, right? But she's able to still get herself dressed and take a shower. Her husband watched Zinnia with her, just to kind of see how she responded to it, because she's still able to go in and say, "Hey, why don't we watch whatever show?" She's still able to watch the shows that she would like to watch. But what she found is that Zinnia was so relaxing that she said, "We should watch this all the time because it's really helping me relax." When I have spoken with other people with mild cognitive impairment who choose to use Zinnia, they use it for the same reason. It helps reset me. It helps me relax. But what the husband said is, "You know what? I love the fact that she's now getting used to this channel, this product, We pop between the different channels. She likes everything that we watch. And eventually, one of the things that we will watch is the let's get dressed video and the let's drink water video. And it won't seem foreign. It'll be part of our routine already to go into Zinnia and watch videos together. So he said, I believe that in the future, we will be really grateful for the fact that we watched this earlier in the course of her progression. Yeah.
Right, because it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
That's great. Do you
Yeah.
know if they find satisfaction from introducing these into their lives at a later stage of dementia?
Oh, yeah. I think that most of our subscribers are people who have been caregiving for quite some time. They're finding it more difficult to find things that occupy the person that they're caring for, and they're looking for things they can still do together. So I remember when walks weren't possible anymore, or at least walks like we used to, right? Going up into the woods, couldn't do that anymore. I remember the day that we went out for a bike ride and my husband said, my bicycle doesn't work. And of course, it was because he couldn't figure out how to get the bike to work. So slowly these things slip away. Going to a museum together, he didn't have the ability to stay focused. It was just boring for him and it was noisy, right? For people who are
Right.
living with dementia, chaotic environments are not good. So one of the things that many couples do is in the evening, they sit down and they watch TV together. Well, that goes away because the person can't really pay attention to TV. Um, and so this reintroduces something that you can do together. Can I go a little bit deeper there for a moment?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I told you about Dr. DiMedeiros and like, oh, okay, a gentler viewing experience is better. Okay, so I earlier this year was facilitating a panel that was at the Michigan Assisted Living Conference. And my topic was low tech and no tech solutions for people who are living with dementia. The audience were all either caregivers, family caregivers. They were people who ran care communities for the most part. So they were people who were looking for solutions to support those with dementia. The panelists who were up on the stage with me all had dementia. So they all had a diagnosis. So we need to recognize that they were not terribly advanced in their disease progression. They were able to get to Michigan and they were able to
Right.
sit on a panel and go back and forth, have conversations, right? They were very, very cognitively with it. So I asked the question of the panelists. So I would like to know what you all like to watch on TV these days. All but one of them had the same response, which is, "Oh, I do not watch TV anymore." Why? It makes me feel bad. Like, I know I'm supposed to like it, but I don't. I try to sit and watch it with my husband or wife, my partner, and I'm constantly asking questions because I cannot keep track of the characters. I can't follow the plot. And it just feels like it's noisy and it's moving so fast. It feels bad in my body, right? It makes me feel agitated and frustrated. So I just don't do that to myself. I turn the TV off or I leave the room. And so I think back to the conversation that you and I had just a few minutes ago, where I talked about arriving at the care community and finding my husband in a chair in front of a television, responding in very negative ways. And I think, oh my gosh, right? He was feeling the same thing that those people were describing. There's so much happening at one time and it's creating chaos and it doesn't feel good. I don't like it. I don't like it. But I can't get up and turn off the TV. I can't leave the room. I am instead stuck in front of this thing that is screaming at me and I can't make it stop. I hate this. I hate this for people who are forced to endure something that is really, really not pleasant for them. And so I love the idea that Zinnia is available as a tool that somebody can use instead of TV. So my partner and I can sit together again in the evening and watch something that is soothing and that is gently paced and that they can actually follow and that we can have a conversation about. It creates a sense of normalcy where there wasn't normalcy previously. also, one of the things that I hear from family caregivers and from long-term care communities is the way that they have discovered that there are certain videos that are a tonic. Every time my wife starts to amp up, I know that I can put this particular video on and she's riveted. She's drawn in, she pays attention, she calms down. It's a distraction from whatever it was that was starting to upset her. So for family caregivers, what a relief to know that. I mean, I've lived that life of I can see it coming when he's starting to amp up. Something is upsetting him, and I know that I'm supposed to get curious. I'm supposed to figure out what the problem is. I know I'm not supposed to react. I'm supposed to respond. Great difference between those two. But I'm starting to act like a person with dementia because I'm getting a bit wigged out. How wonderful if I knew that when he starts to get that way, I can say, "Hey, sweetie, check this out." And I can put on a show that is going to cause him to calm down. And then I can start trying to figure out, okay, what was the trigger? What was upsetting him just a minute ago? In long-term care communities, we have seen amazing evidence of this use of Zinnia videos as an stopgap. Let's try using Zinnia to see if we can calm a person down instead of dosing them with an antipsychotic, which is what the doctor has said. Don't worry about it. When they start getting like this, just pop a pill. But antipsychotics are not good for
No.
the changing brain. And we have had just amazing accolades from people in long-term care who hate dosing people because it causes them, they're a fall risk. It
Right.
it starts to impact their cognition in negative ways. It makes them just sort of like dopey. And how wonderful if instead we could just sit with them and watch babies giggling. And then after that, like they're okay. Right.
Or
So,
puppies or something that's of
right,
interest to
exactly.
them.
Yeah.
When I came across your channel, I actually got a newsletter. I don't remember who it was from. I got a newsletter and there was Zinnia TV. So of course I was
Oh,
curious and looked at it, and it just fascinated me so much. I just
yay.
loved it. I was a caregiver for my mom for 12 years.
Mm.
She didn't have the cognitive decline, but I see how it can help. How do you get these into communities that have memory care areas?
Yeah.
Because
How do you get them to
this
communities?
is where I really want to drive Zinnia TV home, because I
Well,
want
I
to
do
get these
too.
out there.
Right. It's such an inexpensive solution. And one of our goals in trying to get into long-term care was to have it not add work for the staff. So what we have tried is to have something that just fits into the workflow. So if in the afternoon there's a time when you watch TV, maybe try Zinnia TV instead. A lot of places use YouTube because it's free, but you don't know what's coming next. There
Right.
are volume shifts, there are commercials. If your staff is used to clicking something on the TV, why not put something on that is intended for your audience of people who are living with cognitive change? And why not put something on that can be used as an activity itself, right? If we're going to go for a walk and it's autumn, let's watch the fall leaves video before we go. We have a growing number of activities directors who are using Zinnia videos to spark an activity to as a catalyst for something that they're going to be doing as a group. Even if you're serving smoothies at the end of like batting around balloons with with a pool noodle, right? Put on the Let's Drink Water video, and then everybody can be sitting watching the video. You bring in the smoothies, and nobody is reluctant to drink because they see that, oh, now is the time that we drink, right? So how do we get it into these communities? Um,
Yeah. Even
we
with the assisted living, it doesn't have to be just about memory care. It's soothing. I mean, it's soothing for me.
Well,
So
yeah, and we do have content that is specifically intended for, um, group settings that can be both, assisted living or memory care for example, we came out with some new content last year that is our quiz content. And the
I saw
quizzes,
that.
yeah, and the quizzes, we've
Oh,
got great feedback. They're multiple choice. One of the problems that we had is, how do you have something that is that asks questions and you can't press a button to show the answer? And so what we have chosen to do is that it's multiple choice, 3 answers, and then we slowly take away the wrong answers so that all that's left is the correct answer.
and
But anyways,
right.
we have those in so many topics. We also just came out starting in October with daily chronicle videos. And this was the idea here, was that when I was visiting my husband every day, at some point, probably after breakfast or after lunch, one of the staff would take out the printout, which was the Daily Chronicle, and they would say, "Today in history." And they would start talking about the things that happened. And I watched all these people looking around. They can't really, it's hard to pay attention. And especially if the staff member is not terribly skilled, they might be reading at a regular pace, right? So they're just kind of going like this. And the people with dementia are unable to hang on to it. And I know that this is an activity that's done in assisted living as well. So we created these videos for every day of the year, where there's 10 to 12, sometimes 14 things that happened this day in history. So it's an image with the fact, on this day in history, this thing happened. And then the second screen is the same image with more of the story about that thing. And they are great conversation starters, great for establishing the me to story connection, great for creating cohesion within a group. So who here has a memory, and especially in assisted living, right? Who has a memory of when this thing happened? What were you doing the day that this thing happened? So that has been lovely. And we're doing more work along those lines, trying to create content that causes people to think, and that promotes this kind of group interaction.
And going back to the trivia, it's great because you see the answer, you see the picture, and that that's going to be the answer, and it's it's just perfect because they may not know that the picture's up there for a reason, but it eventually comes to the answer.
It is, yeah. We were so fortunate to get funding to do a research project at a long-term care setting in Massachusetts. And some of the quizzes were tested in both assisted living and in memory care. The feedback in assisted living was, the picture gives away the answer. So they actually felt it was a little too easy for assisted living. Memory care, it was spot on, because for exactly what you said, somebody might not make the connection that the picture of the elephant on the screen, that the answer is actually elephant. But as
Right,
the questions start to unfold and they get it and they shout out the answer elephant, it's amazing.
right. So, are you able to get your website up on the screen here?
Yes, I am. Now I have it up, and let me just see if I can share that. Do you see my screen
I do see your screen.
where it says reminiscence?
I do.
Oh, okay, cool. So this is it kind of scrolls through different screens. If I just go back to the beginning, and I apologize because you're looking at this on my computer screen, so you see all the other stuff at the top too, probably. But so this is what we see when we land in Zinnia. And I'll just briefly go through this way. Notice I can pop into the channels right here. What I could also do, I can save the videos that I like best. Here is a list of the channels. I can scroll through them. This is another way that I get to the channels. We have other content that is not channels. So we have created playlists requested by people who watch Zinnia. This is the today in history that I was telling about. So we have September, October, and November. We're going to be putting the December up. We're staying a month ahead of it right now, getting them out there. We have free featured videos. Anybody can come in without a subscription and watch these videos. We always keep track of what the newest videos are. We have content that's just for caregivers. I spent years doing dementia education, and so I have used that experience and created some really, I really like our content, our education content, as well as content that helps you use Zinnia. These are videos that explain how to use Zinnia. We keep these activities calendars up here that give a list of 10 activities that are relevant for this month, and the Zinnia videos that support those activities. And then we also have partners who we are just delighted that we get to house some of their videos on our site. It makes it really easy for their customers to access their content. But anyway, I'm going to go all the way back to the top channels. This is now we're going into the actual Zinnia product. So these are the different channels that we have. And the way that it works is that to watch one, this was the interest that I talked about at the outset. So if I go into interests, here we are, lots of different topics.
Wow.
And so if I were hanging out with a person who, for instance, was a gardener, I would simply click on this. I'm going to turn the volume down because I don't know how that would come across, but it's set to music. And so as you can see, it's this very slow paced thing. Now, if I'm with a person who is pretty able to communicate verbally, then I might ask them questions, or I might ask them to tell me this story. So what time of year did we used to plant the peas? I can't remember if it was February or was it March, right? I would try to include them, engage them in what we're watching. If they are nonverbal, then this is an opportunity to either simply sit together and relax, hold hands, watch a video, or maybe I would describe what we're looking at. The soil looks beautiful. My gosh, there are no rocks in that soil. And so this is what we do. We kind of speed things up. We mostly slow things down. Um, it's very obvious what we're looking at, right? It's very present. It's the center of the screen. And that is sort of the gist of what our videos look like. We talked about a number of different channels earlier when we were having our conversation. The all day channel is simply one channel that has videos from all the different channels. And the idea is there are some long-term care communities that like to have Zinnia someplace in the community just playing during the day, typically a place that people are passing by. So they might stop. Ooh, they see something on the screen that's compelling and they might stand and watch it. A staff member might come over and say, I see that you are really enjoying the puppies or the kittens or the sewing or whatever it might be. These are those activity of daily living videos that I spoke of, where we're just demonstrating people doing the thing that we're going to be doing, right? Or that I wish we were doing. I will share this with you just because I love these. This is my mom.
Oh,
And I shot these when we were together this summer. And in this case, I actually narrate and I'm explaining what she's doing.
It's time to eat a meal.
Can you hear that?
yes.
Yes, good to see you here. This meal will be so easy to eat with our fingers.
So just if there's somebody, for instance, who needs coaching through a meal, the family member could set up an iPad or something with this playing to just kind of coach the person through eating a meal with their fingers, eating a meal with a fork.
Wow. That is so fascinating.
And for me, it was just so fun to do it with
Of
my mom.
course.
These are the
Yeah.
quizzes that I was talking about.
Yeah. Show one of those quizzes. I love those.
Sure. Um, so even something like hunting safety, right? Like who's interested in hunting safety? Some people.
A hunter.
We've had so much fun creating these videos. And one
Uh-huh.
of the things that I think is super cool, we have a bunch that are about to get posted up here. And so, okay, American literature. I actually have a great story with American literature. Um, First, I'll just let you watch it for a moment so you get how it works. It's going to seem painfully slow to you. For a person living with dementia, it is not painfully slow. Okay, here we go.
Which book features the character Tom Sawyer? Is the answer To Kill a Mockingbird? Is it The Adventures of Tom Sawyer? Or is it Little Women? Mark Twain wrote The Adventures of Tom Sawyer in 1876. Tom Sawyer was based on Mark Twain's own childhood.
So I'm going to pause here and just share with you a story. There's a woman who works as a volunteer in a long-term care community in California, and she decided to show this to a fellow named John, who used to be a writer at the LA Times. That's all she knew about him. He was a pretty invisible guy in a wheelchair, nonverbal, and not somebody who was, he wasn't a squeaky wheel. He didn't get a lot of attention. She put this video on and she said, Allyson, when the question came up, he shouted out, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. And he then went through and shouted out the answer to every one of the books. And she said, it was a beautiful thing, not only to watch him and the dopamine hit, right? Of like, I'm the guy. I just got every single one of these right. But for the staff, first of all, who thought he was nonverbal, it turns out he actually can speak. But also to get that there's something going on there, and that our job as people who are supporting those with dementia is to find the key, find the way in. How do we connect with a person? And that is one of the things that I love about Zinnia, is that it is a way in. And you never know, like I talked about earlier, that you want to have something that matters to a person, right? So there's this a lovely story that I have. That same person shared with me a story about the sewing video, and how there was a woman whose family thought she was nonverbal. They played the sewing video, and when the person used shears to cut the fabric, the mom's eyes opened up because it was a sound she was familiar with. She watched the entire video, and then she started talking about sewing, and they were like, we thought you were nonverbal.
Oh my
However,
goodness.
one of the earliest people that was one of our testers was this lovely woman named Frances. Her husband was in my support group when I was part of a support group because I was a family caregiver. And so we knew that Frances was an artist. And so we created all of these different videos about art, about color, painting. And Frances had never been a TV watcher. She was still pretty early in the progression. She had no interest. And her husband said, I'm really sorry, I've tried, but we even did like a California video because she was a California girl. And he said, yeah, it's just not holding her interest. So we kind of lost touch. Frances continued to decline. And eventually John thought, I wonder if now she would watch Zinnia. The video that she fixated on was Navy. And he was like, what is going on here? She's a complete pacifist, first of all. There's nobody in her family who has ever done any military service. Why Navy? I don't know why. But that's the beauty of having lots and lots of different content, is that you can discover and explore. We hear from people who are like, I did not know that my mother was into at whatever it is, right? But it gets them talking and reminiscing, and that's just lovely. So yeah, fun and games. We have quizzes, that we have jokes, we have just silly stuff, happy birthday songs. We have some like name that dog breed. So again, some more kind of trivia type of stuff. The travel videos are really popular. We hear lots of great feedback from people about those. We're always adding new ones. And then we also, let me go back to my channels, have done, at the request of our audience, we have created this faith channel, which we would like to expand. Right now, it is primarily Christian. We have quizzes as well as prayers and hymns. And we do have some Jewish videos, but we'd love to expand that.
Yeah, I can see where that would be really helpful.
Oh my gosh, it's been amazing. I had mentioned to you the animals video, so here we go. Just examples, right? Lots of different animal videos. Nesting hummingbirds, we were so lucky. Eric Pittman is a hummingbird expert who lives in Victoria, and he gifted us that video so that we could have it to share with people. Zinnia en Español is simply people. I just the other day got an email from somebody who said, "Is this good for people who don't speak English?" So these are simply title cards. The video itself has no dialogue. Most of our videos have no dialogue. And we very intentionally did that so that the videos would be available for people regardless of what language they speak. We have a bunch of different holidays that we celebrate in our holidays channel, and people tend to really enjoy being able to, especially activities people love to be able to share those around the holidays. We've been delighted to have wonderful partners who have provided us with sing-alongs. And in most cases, these are not just one song. It's like Mary Sue for 18 minutes singing Christmas songs, for instance. And in some cases,
Nice.
just one song. And those are both in English and in Spanish. And that's it, basically. I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
So how do you expand, like, for instance, the holidays, the faiths, because there's so many different types besides Christianity, besides Christmas, and how do you expand on other things?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So with things like the quizzes, so we built and I hate that we're also doing like AI, but we built an AI tool that is what has allowed us to rapidly build quizzes and to build the this day in history content. And so with the faith-based thing, right? There were a whole bunch of quizzes that were all based on Christianity. Those were all done doing AI. And so we can build those fairly rapidly. For any of the other, for the regular original Zinnia content, that is both it's time. It takes time um and a person who is focused on it. Now, of course, there's a whole new world opening up with creating videos using AI, and certainly it's something that we are exploring. All to say that we create regular content, like if we wanted to just create a video of that has to do with a different religion or that has to do with a different place that one travels to, then we need to have a content person who is grabbing content from lots of different places and putting that together. And 1 6-minute video, it might take her 2 to 3 days to do that.
Ooh,
So
I was
it's
just
very time consuming. And so right now our focus is on trying to build out using our AI tools, but I'd really like to get back to building custom content. And that is all just a matter of economics, frankly. Can we afford to be able to build that kind of content? And we want to, but it all depends on how many subscriptions we sell. So
right,
yeah.
right. And speaking of subscriptions, can you share with the listeners what the cost is?
Sure. So Zinnia is an app, and we have apps that work on iOS, so all Apple devices, including Apple TV, Android, which is all Android devices. We have Roku, Amazon, so for like Amazon Fire, and some Samsung televisions. Most people use, if they're going to watch it on TV, most of our subscribers use a Roku stick because they're cheap. They're less than $30, and then you have access, you can download the app. The subscription itself for families is $70 a year if they subscribe annually, or which winds up being less than $6 a month. Or it's $9.99 a month if they order it as a monthly service. So it's way, way cheaper to do it annually.
Do you have a trial period?
We do. There's a 14-day free trial. And when you log in, to the free trial, it does take a credit card. There's just no way to not do that, unfortunately. It takes a credit card, but it doesn't charge your credit card for 14 days. So for 14 days, you can poke around, look at it, see if you like it. And if you don't, just cancel it and your credit card will never be touched. Yeah. And
That's
for long-term care communities, it is more expensive, but not, it's still pretty reasonable. And it tends to be any place from $25 to $100 a month, depending on the number of people that are being served.
okay. So the $70 a year, is that per TV?
No, it's per family. So we
Okay.
have families who, for instance, mom spends some time at one sister's house and sometimes at the other sister's house. They both have it running on their TVs. They also have it on tablets, and they just all use the same password and log in.
Okay. Allyson, can you give us any insights that you want to share with my listeners before we close the session?
Yeah, I love that it can serve as a tool for respite. My gosh, he's so into this basketball video that I can sneak away and actually get a little bit of work done while he's doing it. And I love that. I love that we have that possibility. Going back to my husband's experience being parked in front of a TV all day, we don't advocate ever just parking somebody in front of anything, Zinnia or anything, all day long. There has been research that has shown that the best viewing experience is when it's viewed together. And I love to think of Zinnia as a tool for connection. Yes, respite, but more than anything, I think of it as a tool for connection, ways for us to enjoy each other in ways that we might otherwise have felt like we lost. And those are the testimonials that just really make my heart sing when people talk about how much they are enjoying this time with their loved one, because time is short, right? It's fleeting
Right.
when we're losing them to dementia. And if we can find ways to still be able to tap into the core of why we loved them in the first place, that makes me happy.
Yeah, me too. Makes me very happy. And knowing that you're making someone's life better and as well as your own, because trying to
Yeah,
figure out what you're going to do 24/7 when you're taking care of someone who can't talk, who can't say what they like, who, you're trying to feed them and they push away what you're feeding them because they don't like it. This is
it's
just amazing.
exhausting.
It
It's
is.
exhausting. Yeah.
It's exhausting. And that's why when I came across your app, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your app, you, and I want to thank you so much for agreeing to be on my podcast. I absolutely love it.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for thinking of me.
You're welcome. And thank you again. And thank you to my listeners for being here. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Allyson is offering Seniors Home Zone listeners an exclusive 25% discount at zinniatv.com. To receive this offer, enter SHZ25 as the promotion code when you check out. You've been listening to Seniors Home Zone. Please like, share, and spread the word. And don't forget to visit zinniatv.com for more ways to bring comfort and connection to your day. Until next time, take care of yourself and those you love.